What happens when intelligence assessments and wartime justifications begin to diverge during an active conflict? After a major strike campaign in June 2025 that reportedly dismantled key nuclear facilities, US intelligence concluded that no rebuilding effort was underway, even as military operations continued under claims of an imminent threat. This video examines how conflicting narratives, shifting intelligence, and strategic uncertainty are shaping one of the most consequential confrontations in the current global order. At stake is not just the outcome of a single conflict, but the credibility of intelligence, the threshold for preemptive war, and the future of nuclear deterrence in volatile regions. If the campaign succeeds in permanently degrading capabilities, it could redefine how states respond to perceived nuclear risks. If it fails, or if intelligence proves misaligned with policy decisions, it risks weakening trust in both domestic institutions and international norms. And if escalation continues, the conflict could expand beyond its current scope, drawing in additional actors and destabilizing critical geopolitical balances. The origins of this situation lie in decades of tension over nuclear development and regional influence. For years, concerns over uranium enrichment and weapons capability have driven cycles of negotiation, sanctions, and covert action. Diplomatic agreements have periodically slowed progress, but disagreements over compliance and enforcement have repeatedly led to breakdowns. This long-standing friction created a framework where military action became a conceivable option under certain threat perceptions. The turning point came on February 28th, when a coordinated military operation was launched, followed by a broader campaign in June 2025 targeting nuclear infrastructure. The strikes reportedly focused on enrichment facilities and associated sites, aiming to significantly degrade technical capacity. Initial official statements emphasized the scale of destruction, suggesting that key elements of the program had been eliminated. However, intelligence assessments presented months later introduced a more nuanced picture. According to formal testimony delivered to lawmakers, analysts concluded that there had been no observable effort to rebuild enrichment capabilities following the strikes. This assessment implied that, at least in the short term, the objective of halting nuclear progress had been achieved. At the same time, the intelligence community assessed that the governing system remained operational, though weakened by targeted attacks on leadership and military assets. This creates a critical tension between operational outcomes and strategic messaging. Public statements had framed the situation as an urgent threat, with claims that weaponization could occur within weeks. Yet intelligence findings did not align with that timeline, instead indicating a pause or disruption in technical development. The gap between these perspectives raises questions about how threat assessments are interpreted and communicated during conflict. Key actors in this situation operate under different incentives. Political leadership must justify military decisions, often emphasizing urgency and risk. Intelligence agencies focus on evidence-based analysis, which may evolve as new information becomes available. Military planners operate within these frameworks, executing strategies based on both immediate objectives and long-term considerations. External actors, including regional powers and global institutions, monitor these dynamics closely as they influence broader security calculations. Recent developments further complicate the picture. High-level losses within the targeted state's leadership structure have affected command and control, while infrastructure damage has reduced immediate operational capacity. At the same time, Internal governance structures remain intact, suggesting resilience despite sustained pressure. Analysts assess that if the current system persists, it is likely to pursue a gradual rebuilding of military capabilities, including missile systems and unmanned platforms, over a multi-year timeline. Now consider the first scenario. If the current degradation of nuclear infrastructure holds and no rebuilding occurs in the near term, the conflict could shift toward containment rather than escalation. This would reduce immediate proliferation risks and potentially reopen space for diplomatic engagement. In such a case, the use of force would be framed as having achieved its core objective, even if broader tensions remain unresolved. A second scenario presents a different trajectory. If intelligence assessments underestimate the capacity for recovery and rebuilding efforts begin covertly, the conflict could re-enter a cycle of escalation. New strikes could be justified on the basis of renewed activity, increasing the risk of miscalculation and wider confrontation. This scenario would also test the reliability of intelligence in detecting dispersed or concealed programs. A third possibility lies in prolonged instability. Even without immediate rebuilding, sustained pressure on leadership and military systems could fragment internal structures, leading to unpredictable outcomes. This could include shifts in strategic posture, changes in alliances, or the emergence of new security dynamics that are harder to anticipate and control. The geopolitical consequences extend beyond the immediate region. The use of preemptive force based on threat assessments sets a precedent that other states may interpret differently. If intelligence and policy appear misaligned, it could influence how future interventions are justified and perceived. At the same time, the degradation of one state's capabilities may alter regional power balances, prompting adjustments by neighboring actors and external powers. Energy markets, trade routes, and global security frameworks are all indirectly affected by such conflicts. Even limited disruptions can influence pricing, supply chains, and investor confidence. More broadly, the perception of instability can reshape strategic planning across multiple sectors, from defense to economics. What emerges is a complex interaction between information, action, and consequence. Intelligence assessments are not static. They evolve as conditions change. Policy decisions, however, often require immediate judgment under uncertainty. The alignment or misalignment between these elements can have lasting effects on both outcomes and perceptions. In the end, this is a question of how states navigate uncertainty in high-stakes environments. The balance between acting on perceived threats and verifying those threats through evidence is not easily maintained. What you should watch next is how intelligence findings continue to evolve, how they are integrated into decision-making, and whether the gap between analysis and action narrows or widens over time.